Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show, and got a new guest. Well, I think he was a guest once or twice before in another iteration of Sterling Metals, but Sterling Metals has really taken the world by the storm over the last few a week or so due to a fantastic drill hole hit and got Matt Wilson on to talk about that. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Alan, thanks a lot for having me here. Long time listener, second time caller, I suppose. I think I was on with Kelly when we were talking about our silver thing in Newfoundland years ago.
Yeah, well, actually, that kind of sets the stage a little bit for what I wanted to talk about, Matt. You know, in my shows, I'm always trying to educate people about how things can evolve and, you know, the way the business, the ebbs and flows of the business, if you will. And why I paid attention to you guys back then was you had a really good project. It had really good results in indicators of what I thought would lead to an important discovery. And Mother Nature, she just doesn't work out for you sometimes. So you guys regrouped, reconstituted everything, got this project in Batchewana Bay, put a great team together, by the way, and bang, you hit it out of the park recently with this drill hole.
Yeah, it is a story of people, right? So I'm blessed to have been around really good people. Kelly, Victor, and then you see the team we have now, Rich Patricio and Jeremy Nemi and I have been together since we were trying to restart a gold mine in Paraguay 8 years ago. So when you go through things together and you trust each other and you bounce around, but you have people that have a good network, then as long as you pivot and kind of are honest like you said, Mother Nature sometimes just says nope, that's too complicated. It's like, all right, next one. And so, and it worked because, that silver project led me to go fly fishing with the Altius guys, who were the guys who vended us the project. And that's where I met Neil O'Brien. And so Neil has been, a huge driver on the copper macro side of things and why I got really excited about big copper in Canada and like undiscovered potential and when he was the former SVP of Lundin and he bought, under him they bought Eagle and Eagle is a mid-continent rift thing. Batchewana Bay is a mid-continent rift thing and it's a porphyry and he's spent
Eagles
20
down
years of the
down in Wisconsin or something like. Where is that thing? Eagle,
Eagles in North Michigan.
Michigan,
Yeah,
Michigan.
North Michigan, right? And so then he spent the last 20 years in the Vicuña district, right? When NGX was worth 30 million. He was, you know, Wojtek worked for him at Kaminko and it's just such a fun between him and Jeremy. And then you got Rich and you guys got like guys like Mark Goodman. I mean, like when the team is there, it's a lot of fun. So follow people, I guess, and that's I do that. I'm following people. It's just I just walk around with this thing.
Well, when I did my homework on the project a few years ago, because I had covered the company that previously had it, and some things stood out to me immediately. And they made me contact my mentor in geochemistry, which is a guy named Bob Barnett. So Bob and I have known each other for like 25 years. We co-wrote a paper, a peer-reviewed paper on unique diamond indicator minerals. And anyway, so Bob had retired and moved back to his family farm in Batchewana Bay, Ontario. So this project came across just about the same time that Bob had retired. And so I phoned up Bob and I said, Bob, what do you know about this pro? Oh, and he starts going off on me. He starts telling me, oh yeah, the Tribag mine and the breccias and then he starts telling me about the big picture geological concept and he's telling me, wow, this should be there should be something really big there. And he starts telling me about everything, right? And so then I introduced them to him to the management, and they pitched him on the stock. I tried to introduce him because I wanted them to pick his brain about the geology,
Yeah.
but they pitched him on the stock instead. So a little time goes by and it's still a really brutal market, and you pick it up. So I start, oh, I know that project. Unfortunately, I didn't buy any damn stock, but that's okay. I might buy some anyways, even though I have to pay up for it. It's probably a better bet now, anyways, than it was
You know
then.
what? I think it is a better bet now because I don't think anyone expected to see that level. I mean, we can all say we you think the project is very good, and the Tribeca mine was crazy. Like there are reports of 50 to 100 meters of 20% copper being
Just
mined, and and
crazy.
and Tech ran it, and they cared so much that there's a 300 million ton historical resource all around those four breccias of 0.15 copper. They tried so hard to find more of it and just couldn't. And so the richness of this system is really great, right? And so I think we can all, everyone can postulate that there's going to be something really good. But when you see the bornite dump and people say that this is the most bornite I've seen outside of the footwalls in Sudbury, that's the kind of rock I can't say that we were.
Okay, by the way, folks, for the non-geologists out there, bornite is a sulfide mineral for copper, and it's the best one. It's the highest grade copper per weight associated with this particular mineral. And so when you start seeing that pretty looking bluish rock, uh,
Awesome.
you get pretty excited. And
It's like peacocks, peacock colors.
yeah, there you go. There you go. And yeah, so when I was looking at the project, Matt, I was really interested in the breccia pipes. Now, I know a lot of people, when they're doing porphyry exploration, they want to go after the porphyry, but sometimes I think they don't really give those pipes enough credit because down in South America, some of those breccia pipes are fantastic mines. They're just loaded up with copper, and so I was looking at that, and I'm kind of because I know how kimberlite pipes are have zonation in them, and that you gotta sometimes you can have a 30 million ton kimberlite pipe but only 10 million tons of it is the juice of it, right? It's where all the diamonds are located. So I looked at that breccia pipe and I thought, man, there's some really good grades in there. And if you and I was thinking if you went down the guts of it and then started spreading out from there, that could get a lot of attention, but they never really paid any attention to the breccia pipes. And the other reason I like them is that they can lead you to the porphyry because they come off of porphyry.
Neil also loves breccia pipes. I've come to understand anyone that really is into porphyries talks about breccias a lot. I think that that one that everyone references for me, it's like 70 million tons in Chile. It's something, and I mean you're going to get the most permeability in your breccia. It's going to be
Exactly.
the most beautiful like combination of copper. And there
Yes.
are a bunch of breccias on this system, right? So there's a small one
By
that
the
was
way,
50 meters.
folks, what a breccia is, sorry, I'm
No,
translating
no,
this.
no, please.
It's where the rocks are broken up, okay? And so then the fluids can come up into them, and you can get some very high grade because what will happen over time is the porphyry that's fueling or pumping that below will pump up into there multiple times. So you've got this broken up rock that's just asking for something to come up into it, and the porphyry below it keeps pumping it up. So it's exciting for the grade potential, but also to lead you to the porphyry it's coming from.
If you're looking for, yeah, I've come to understand I'm not a geologist. For all those listening, I have learned a lot in the last 2, 3 years in copper exploration. And I've learned that all you need to know about copper exploration is you need permeability. You need
Absolutely.
rocks that can take fluids on. That's about, if you don't have it, it doesn't really matter. And I think that in this system, you have breccias and then you have these old Ontario mafics. You have these rocks that are permeable. It almost reminds me of a gold system in a way where you're like you're just your porphyry's coming up and what happens here is it's just dumping into the mafics, right? These permeable zones of these Ontario old greenstone rocks, right? And so I know that Neil tells me a lot, like the presence of mafics down in these porphyry systems in Chile and Argentina and Peru bring this richness of grades because that, like you said, the porphyry dumps the fluids into them and it makes these really high grade zones. So it's fascinating stuff. It's like a weird. I know I've had Allan. I've had so Bachelor. It's been this thing's been around for a while. The
Yeah.
60s is when the first porphyry was discovered here. And it's so funny because most geologists that I will have talked to, and even still will be like, no way, it's not a porphyry. The amount of like doubting. Now, what do I know? I don't know anything about that. How am I supposed to be like, I mean, like it is. I know it is. And there's a paper written, and you know, Dick Silito and Jose
Yes.
Perea, these two like legends in porphyries.
Yep.
They wrote a paper in 2019 being like, this is a porphyry. Here's the age dating. And so all the science that we spew about like dates of rocks and the rift and all this stuff, it's all theirs. We're just spreading it.
Well, another interesting thing that I love to look for, Matt, is I love projects that people discard and they say, oh, this shouldn't be there and blah, 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 because I've seen it so many times. There wasn't supposed to be diamonds in the Northwest Territories of Canada. There was Diamond Fields was looking for diamonds in Newfoundland and Labrador, and they found a fantastic base metal
Mix.
mine. And I've heard this story many times, and these geologists, they love to pigeonhole things and say, oh, this can't be that or that can't be this. And projects get unloved for a long period of time. And all of a sudden, you come in with a fresh set of eyes, and magic can happen. And I think you got magic happening here, amigo.
Yeah, it's Philo, man.
30 years.
Philo, NGEX, Philo, and Lundin are $25 billion of value right now. It was worth $30 million in one company in 2009. Just
And they spun
because,
that out into three
which
that
are
are
now
now
worth $25 billion
25
dollars
billion.
total. Yeah. So
And
just
again, that was
and
another
that
situation. Yeah.
1996 that was discovered. 1996 they had it, right? And so it's always these things, the cycles. I agree with you. I love it too. I think that big rocks, like you need some, like the mid-continent rift is where we are. So I think that you need some big crack in the earth. I've come to really appreciate. Like you need some sort of big geology to
Absolutely.
make a big system. Like you said, Mother Nature, there is some sort of rhyme and reason there where it's like there's a big crack, there's big fluids, small
Yep.
crack, small fluids. That's my
Well,
understanding.
sometimes they can be tight, and if the source of where it's coming from, let's say 5,000 meters below the surface, is super enriched and it pumps up into those tight little veins, these are orogenic gold systems.
Right.
That's,
But I guess in copper where you need your tonnage, right? You need like
yes,
you need these big things, right?
yeah,
Gold, that's
absolutely.
right. That makes sense to me in gold. Gold's so valuable. But in copper, I've come to understand tonnage. And so, Mid-Continent Rift is pretty fun. This crack in the earth. Talon, like, do you know the Talon? They
Yeah,
drilled that 35
absolutely.
meters of
There's
whatever.
another one. Nobody believes in Talon. For years, they're plugging away. They get a billion shares out because they had to keep raising money, and they come up with a theory that okay, we need to go deeper into this system. Bang, 20 some percent rock, man.
Unreal, right? Unreal. Eagle was a Rio project. They're like, this is whatever. Lundin goes and buys it. They broke the concentrator. It was such high grade. Like there's like they had too much reagent in there. It didn't even work. Northern Michigan, 15.5 billion pounds of native copper, right? I don't even know how you would explore native copper these days. Like it's all native copper. It's just these rich things in the mid-continent rift making me very excited that this, where we are, is also very rich and something very special because it seems to be that when you're in the right spot, good things happen, and that was what kind of this drill hole seems to have proven.
Yeah, and folks, what happens is when the continents were building a billion years ago, you had your really old rocks and they would crash together and you'd have subduction and all these various different geological events. that lead to what Matt is talking about, these cracks in the earth where the fluids that can come up from deep down and they can get into those cracks in the earth and magic can happen. And
Yeah, so
you guys
and then
got
hopefully
some.
make some money on
There you
it.
go.
And that's really what everyone's listening for, right?
Well, I hope so. Well, and I always like to look for lessons that my audience can learn. And, one of the things that I think is the most dangerous thing I've ever heard, even sophisticated investors, even geologists, well, if it was so good, why did that company let it go? Why did this company let it go? Da, 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 da. Look at
Yeah,
even Musselwhite right now. Musselwhite was an unloved project in Newmont. And the Orla guys got their hands on it. They looked at everything and they go, maybe we should go over here. And they just announced some fantastic holes on a
yeah.
project that's been in production for over 2 decades. And they're still finding new stuff, folks. Do not fall into that category of, oh, well, if it was so great, why didn't this company before do something with it? Well, a lot of things can affect that. The geologist can do a bad job. The geologists interpreting it can do a bad job. The price of the metals can do, when you're looking at 60 cent a pound copper, and like you said, the major that was in there before tried to make it work. 0.13 of a percent of copper doesn't work when you got 60 cent a pound copper. So they hit the road. A junior comes in there, they try it out. They didn't do anything. Now you guys come in there, you got a fresh set of eyes. And another thing I love about the project is this wasn't even your highest priority target. You were tell the story about how you just happened to drill this hole due to timing and scheduling and all that jazz.
So we get this project last year in May. We get this project last year in May. We spend a year. Um, I wasn't the most popular person with shareholders, but I told everyone this is what I was doing. We had 4 million in the bank. I said I'm going to spend all of it not drilling. Everyone's like, "What do
Okay.
you mean you're going to spend all of it not drilling?" I'm like, "We got to do a lot of work. We got to do soils, and we got to do IP. We're going to do property-wide mag." And then we get going, and finally we drill this thing in the spring, raise $1.5 million, and basically we don't get to start our program until early April, just from whatever happens. So we drill 4 holes because then we get washed out. There was 12 feet of snow on the ground. And so when it melts in Ontario, don't be there. So we are there. And so we can't even move our rig. Literally, we have to bring in like this moon vehicle to like move everyone around. And so the third and fourth hole we drilled weren't exactly in the perfect spots. And so there was a hole that we wanted to drill this spring. Well, two of them actually. And the one hole that we didn't drill in the spring, we started that hole this summer, right?
Okay.
We hit all this low grade copper, this good tenor, all this good stuff that could be better. So we drilled this hole in to start this program, and in that hole is unbelievably high grade copper over little bits, right? Like to the best, but like when you see the chalcopyrite, it's just pure calco veins. Like it's just really beautiful stuff, but
Okay.
not enough permeability, not enough fluid in the rocks around it.
Okay.
So our drill plan was this grid around this 2 kilometers of resistivity, following geophysics, all this jazz. And our VPX, Jeremy, and our senior geo Crystal, we jump on a Zoom, and they're like, Matt, and I'm like, let's go test the big targets, let's go test the big blobs. Come on, get out of there. And I'm just trying, right? And they're just like, no way. We're gonna turn the rig 100 and something degrees, 180, 170, whatever it is, just off section. And they're like, there's a small, subtle resistivity anomaly. We already know this area that we're in has bornite. The LIDAR is a really key structure. Anyways, all these things happen. I'm like, no way, guys. This better. Is this in your top 5 holes? And they both turn to Matt. This is our hole. Like, this
Holy.
is the hole. And the level of conviction, not that I'm choosing the drill program, but they're like, this is the hole. They're like, this is the drill hole. Wasn't in our drill plan. We spent months figuring out this drill plan, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so we drilled this hole. And then it's just fantastic. And that is two things I've learned from that. One, it's so good that I'm not controlling anything about drill programs. That's number one. And, and number two is that you can have all this information on the project, and then at the end of the day, you got to drill holes and trust the rocks. And I think that you kind of get led to a good spot through geophysics. Like it kind of takes you to an area. Like we were there because of it,
Yeah.
but man, you need boots on the ground, and I mean, like you need understanding and knowledge of what you're chasing, and of course, you need a little bit of luck, right? But one of the
Well,
great
and
lines,
you bring up a point there. Folks, sometimes these big geophysical blobs are something you're not looking for, and sometimes it's just a subtle geophysical anomaly that can turn out to something great. And you just got to test it. And here, look at what happens when they tested it. Sterling announces high-grade copper discovery at the Sioux Copper Project, intersecting 262 meters of a percent 0.05, 1.05% copper equivalent, including 68 meters of 3.25% copper equivalent and 9.3 meters of 19.8% copper equivalent from near surface. Wow. I
I
think
can
I
hear you
said
say that all day.
I think I said that. I sent you a WhatsApp message, and that was my message. Wow.
Wow, yeah, you wrote me. Wow, it was definitely a wow, and I mean, when it came out of the ground, that especially, it's really the first bornite is at 24 meters and it goes to 350, right? So it's a fascinating hole, but man, that high grade zone is just awesome. It
Okay,
is.
so here I got the core now. So, okay, folks, so you can see the sulfides here. Okay. And that's chalcopyrite and gold mineralization and bornite. Okay. So you see a little bit of bornite. And now look at that. That's some beautiful looking bornite and chalcopyrite. And where's the grade? Oh, you didn't put the. Oh, here's the grade.
Yeah, 33% copper.
My gosh. So now when you see that bornite, okay, game
Oh
on.
yeah. And honestly, Alan, even when you see dots of bornite, like this project, like if you see a little patch of bornite, it's 3%. Like it's an unbelievable amount of copper that's carried. So, and it's all coming up through, you're almost there. It's all coming up through that porphyry rock, right? That's what's
You're trying to get ahead of me. I wanted to show the magic. Okay, so folks, here's what a porphyry looks like. These little veinlets of mineralization inside of the country rock. And as you can see, these veinlets are loaded up with chalcopyrite and bornite copper mineralization. And you got almost a percent of copper, some sniffs of gold, and sniffs of silver in there as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So like that porphyry unit, so that predates all the mineralization phases that come up.
Okay.
And it's an interesting thing we're still learning because you want to find that porphyry unit because beside the porphyry unit is where all your grade is.
Yeah.
Sometimes that porphyry has unbelievable bornite chalcoveining in it, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing that we're learning as we go. And I think that what's we're starting to see is that there's other things that have to happen around it, but we're getting there. It's so
So,
early. This
folks, here is the pyrite,
Calco, no pyrite here.
or
Zero,
sorry,
zero,
chalcopyrite. Sorry.
yeah, zero pyrite, zero pyrrhotite in this whole area.
And then earlier, Matt was mentioning just little dots of bornite. That's what you're looking at here, right, Matt?
Yeah, actually, even in the veins there, you can see it. The fun part about this is that we
Like
had
right
this
in
porphyry.
here.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's all bornite.
And over here,
I'm leaning in as if I'm looking to see something.
and little specks in here. Wow.
And it shows up really nicely in a hand lens, that's for sure. It's just a whole bunch of purple peacock things that show you. And then the fun part is that I'm jumping here, but that it comes to surface too. So you can actually see on a 6 meter wide outcrop, it's on the face, the siding of a rock face.
Yeah.
It's splattered with bornite and chalcopyrite, these flat-lying moly veins, and
So when I was
um,
looking at this map, Matt, I noticed in this LiDAR survey here that it looks like there's a cliff or something right here.
yeah.
And is that the one you're talking about when you look at the side of it, you can see bornite all over the place?
No, so where we point out the cave showing there, that purple dot,
Yeah,
so that's right on the shore of the water there,
yeah,
and you walk up to it. First of all, the shoreline is basically lined with calco, and it's really fun. And all site visit people will go there, and you just see like copper everywhere. And
yeah,
then you go to it's wild, right? So that's always a good thing. And then you walk up and you see this face of a I don't know, it's probably I don't know, 5, 6 meters high. And
yeah.
like the whole you go in and you can just see a splattering of chalcopyrite and bornite. You have a whole stockwork veining in the wall rock filled with chalcopyrite and bornite. You get these flat lying moly quartz veins with patchy chalcopyrite, and you see all these phases of copper all in front of you. And luckily, man, the prospectors and guys that have basically owned on and off this project for 60 years, whose backyard we're in, where our core shack is. Without them, we never would have found this. They were the one that took us as an outcrop, and they're like, the previous people didn't come here. Look at this outcrop, and you if you go there, you're like, this is phenomenal. You're like, what? So much copper on the wall, and I think that it's an amazing thing. Those guys, they were like stewards of the project, Dan Shelley and Roy Rupert. And it's like, we discount all the previous work so quickly and we just should listen sometimes, right? It's like listen to what
Absolutely.
people are saying.
A lot of great minds have been found by those non-geologists who walk around and do old-fashioned geology. They walk around and they look down and they see pretty looking rock and pay attention to them because, they're your eyes on the ground, right? And if they
Yeah,
got
and
good eyes,
Roy actually is a geologist and has worked around.
oh,
And so you had this geologist and prospector here. Dan Shelley's dad worked in the mines. They've been here forever, and like they have core from the 60s and 70s in their shed, and it's uh it's a real treat. Like there's no AI engine that would have replicated the knowledge that they brought to us. So it's really just a shout out to them for like we never would have known. And now it's a key part of our exploration program, right?
wow. That's why you want to do that old-fashioned geology, see where the mineralization is and pay attention, boys, because
Yeah,
look what can come out of it.
yeah, it's cool.
That's just amazing stuff. And do they mention anything about this structure and this one here, as well as this one? I mean, structure is everything in mining, folks. Structure, structure, structure.
So we're definitely finding that you can see it, right? You're sort of outlining the whole thing. This like blob. This blob seems to very much matter. Everything comes right to surface here, all the copper.
Yeah,
We've drilled outside of it all the way over to, like, if you go to the left side of your screen there, there's 100 meters of 0.31 all the way over there. The breccia you talked about, 50 meters of 1% copper, is just south of that. I took it off the map, but really where that arrow goes to on the left is 50 meters of 1% copper. It's going to be I think it's a pretty small breccia, but it's there. And so we don't really have, I gotta tell you, a perfect understanding of structure and everything that works. We got a great team working on putting it together, but um, we are still in the testing phase, right? The one thing that is really important to point out, I think, is that it's 6 holes so far.
wow.
We've drilled more, but like 6 holes. And for me, one thing that Neil always says to me is that like giants don't hide very well. So if you're drilling something like this on your sixth hole, it's probably pretty special when you're going to get into the heart of it. I mean, like you think like SK Creek was what, hole 124 and all these things at the end, right? It's like
Exactly.
6 holes. Everything is copper everywhere. So that's
And
that's definitely
everybody
an
was
encouraging
telling
thing.
old Murray Pesum, stop drilling. And he said, well, I got a
Keep
sniff.
going.
I got a nose for gold. And, I mean, he was a butcher. And he found two of the greatest gold mines in Canadian history. So,
Wild.
I often hear people say, "Oh, it's all about the people." Well, if you were betting on Murray Pesum finding it, you probably would have very low odds. of him finding two of the most important. And I'm going to put those odds on you, Matt Wilson.
Yeah, probably not betting on me. I wouldn't bet on no.
Ah, well, I tell you what is a good bet. When you start seeing Tribag mine here, Copper Corp mine here, I believe there's breccias. I think the one
Oh
breccia's
yeah,
up here.
yeah.
And now you go back to this news release and you're finding copper way over here. So what's that? Almost a kilometer away. You got more copper down here, even sniffs of copper up there. You know, that doesn't happen by accident, folks. And that's another lesson. Sometimes we see sniffs and everybody goes, ah, it's dead.
Yeah,
IDEX was a perfect example of that recently.
they
They
just did it.
drilled
Yeah.
they drilled down the side of a breccia pipe and just got sniffs and the stock was up and everybody was expecting great things and then it got hammered after the news release and then they had an angled hole in there and I looked at that and I go don't think they killed it yet, folks. They might have only wounded it. And sure enough, they came out with a screamer of a hole that went through the breccia pipe. So, I find a lot of times that investors, they look at these projects, and if it's not a one-hit wonder, they walk, and they're not unusual. Mining companies do that as well. Geologists do that, like you said earlier, Matt. They a bunch of geologists say, no, nah, there's not going to be any blah blah blah, and look what you hit.
Alan, there's five Phelps Dodge holes here from the 60s, and in the bottom of one of them is 50 meters of logs talking about bornite and porphyry rock.
Is that
And they
these
just
holes up here
no, there it was down actually almost under the cave showing, to be honest. And
over here
those
somewhere?
holes up in the top there are the old porphyry, but it's not on this grid where they drilled from.
Okay.
It's really interesting. Like there's logs here, like from the 90s, a kilometer away. There's 50 meters of bornite and porphyry around a vein in a mafic rock that's a 4% copper over a meter, right? So if you look here, you see big system, and I think that the press release we just put out, where we're showing us 6 kilometers of bornite and outcrop, and so again for me, like bornite, good.
So
Bornite.
they just put this out today. Sterling Metals Summer Field Program discovers bornite in outcrop across a 6 kilometer corridor and appoints Dr. Neil O'Brien as chief geologist. Now, tell us a little bit about Dr. Neil O'Brien. You already
Well,
mentioned him, but this talks more about him. So why don't you talk about those two things a little bit more for us?
yeah, so Neil, I mean, he's awesome. He's again, so he's spent 40 years he spent as a geologist. He's seen rocks all over from Turkey to BC to around the world, and he was a GM of Cominco in the 90s. He ran an assay lab. He ran Mexico for them. And then Lucas Lundin got him out, and he became the head of exploration for Lundin, where that was in 2004 or five, and then Lundin grew a lot, obviously, since then. I mean, they had Tenke in the Congo. They had their stuff up in Europe. Then they had, they bought Eagle in 2012. But the most relevant thing here is Eagle, the Mid-Continent Rift, and then what they did with the Vicuña district was just so spectacular. I mean, you had again NGEX into Filo and Lundin Mining, which is now 25 billion together of value, and really just the Vicuña district is the most interesting, probably I think the best new porphyry district that we've had in recent years. So. Um,
Well,
you
that's
know, it's
until the Sioux project came along in Canada.
I'll take it. But his relevant expertise is just awesome. And for him to come on as chief geologist, this guy doesn't, Neil does not have to jump into these things, right? He's
He
he's he's good.
came out of retirement, it seems here. He was right in
He,
retirement until
he
2018.
yeah, he's still on the board of NGEX. He still goes around. You can actually YouTube the Land of Giants of the Vicuña district. He goes around with Adam Lundin and Wojtek telling the story of the Vicuña district. So they do these 3 week, 4 week whirlwind tours around the world. BHP put 100 million into Philo around it, and I think that like when you listen to them and you just get the sense of like big mineral systems equals big mines and big mines equal big districts, right? So you need these giant mineral systems and 30 kilometers wide and the right kind of thing is it's a big mineral system, right? So we anticipate there's more than just one mine, and I think that he sets the stage for that and validates where we're going with this. And then when you take that and then you see the bornite and outcrop. This is so Ontario forest for everyone who's around a forest. Like just think wandering through a forest of soils and leaves and trees, like finding rocks that stick out of the ground. It's not the easiest thing in the world. It's not like the mountains in BC or in the Andes and such, right, where it's sticking out.
Yep.
So to find this much outcrop of the mineral that we all care about, bornite, because we know what bornite does now, it drills holes like this. And so to see these concentrated areas that are kilometers away from where we drill the hole, it just shows you. And honestly, we just figured this out last week. This just happened. And
Wow.
so, man, we were thrilled to say the least. It's such a
Well,
pleasant
he
surprise that
makes
we have stuff
a
like that.
very interesting quote here. Our drilling indicates a kilometer scale, well-preserved copper-bearing potassic zone that commonly hosts bornite mineralization at shallow depths and that we have yet to find the limits of. These new soil geochemical and geophysical results further support our interpretation that the copper mineralization is multi-staged. We talked about that earlier, and related to several phases of porphyries that comprise an underlying giant intrusive center. He's not making this up, folks. The giant intrusive center is what my geochemical mentor was talking to me about, was these giant intrusive centers. He goes on, the identification of extensive new bornite and chalcopyrite prospects across kilometers to the southwest of our current drilling provides good evidence that there are more high-grade copper zones at shallow depths yet to be discovered. Having worked with Sterling as a technical advisor, I'm excited to now formally step into the role of chief geologist. The Sioux copper discovery represents one of the most compelling copper exploration opportunities in Canada, and I look forward to advancing and expanding this high-grade system. End quote. Hell of a quote there, Matt. Mic drop
Like,
for sure.
I don't even have to say anything. Don't listen to me. Listen to Neil. This guy, it's so wonderful to have him there to validate. He's such a great guy. And we've worked really closely together, him, Jeremy, myself, and our team of geologists, Crystal and Rory, like for a couple of years now. So we all and for him to he's like, no, I'm jumping right in now. And so it's great, right? Because that's what do I know?
Yeah.
And I look at projects a lot, but not like this, right? So, and in his experience with Lucas and Lundin Group, like he looked at projects all over the world, truly, right? It's been to I
Yep.
think 73 countries. That's something very high. And so that relative comparable, that ability to say like, look, I've seen this many rocks and this is this special, gives us a whole bunch of confidence that this is something real,
Well, and this
let
is
alone the drill hole.
this is interesting, folks, because a guy like him, he could basically be retired or work wherever he wants. And we often hear that comment that when you see a fat pitch, you want to swing for it. Well, when he puts his name behind this project, what he's telling you is he sees a fat pitch because guys like him, they just want another notch on their belt. They don't, it's just another thing for them that they can add to their resume, and they get worked up because they see things that could be. I mean, we touched on some of this already earlier, where we talked about multi-phased and the fluids pumping up into there for long periods of time, and that there is potentially a big source underneath there that's been pumping all this mineral, these fluids with the metals in them up into the Sioux project.
A lot of fun. Early, but a lot of fun. It's a very cool project.
So Um, so, oh, here you go. Here's another example, folks, of you see, as he calls it, peacock color or purpley blue. This is from a surface sample piece of rock where you got that juicy material in there, and you never know what's sitting right underneath that when you put the truth
Prob
machine down there. Here's more.
Probably something. Probably something.
Here's
These are
more, folks. Here's the bornite. Here's the chalcopyrite. The as we say, the juices are flowing, Matt.
Yeah, it's hard to find rocks. And you know what? They look exactly like, it's very visual, but they look exactly like the cave. Like that outcrop that we see near our drill hole, all the rock looks so similar. It's just like this splattering. And so just imagine that rock, but across six, but in a bigger version of it. That's the outcrop that we based it on.
Where's
And
my
so,
pictures? Where's my videos?
oh, they're on our, man, they're on, hold on. There's a video of it actually. It just doesn't come across the same way. We don't have as good pictures. There's a video on our site. If you go to the projects, you go to projects in the top left there. You go
Yeah.
to core gallery, and I encourage everyone. We're trying to make sure that everyone can see everything. And you'll see actually as we go through MEPS 2 here, this is the discovery
Oh
hole.
my God, look at this,
There
folks.
you go. Now we're talking.
Whoa. Look at that. It's half bornite and half chalcopyrite.
So that's 24 meters depth. Yeah, we're trying to make sure that you can see the extent of this. It's really wild. The tenor being the concentration of copper here, like this of this system is a lot of fun.
So here, folks, is a little bit of an indication of sulfides. And then this is part of the porphyry system, I would imagine. I'm
That's
guessing.
this like alteration, this alteration that dumps into the mafics really. You get these like just very highly altered mafics really. But I'm gonna stop there because now we're getting to a point where if I start teaching, trying to talk geology too much, then it just turns into nonsense.
Well, you're learning fast, by the way, Matt. Before you were more like a stock jockey, looking at a lot of stocks and trying to find. I heard you throwing some terms around there. So you're learning by osmosis.
Yeah, I always say geology through osmosis is my thing, but I said that when I started at Pine Tree where we had a lot, and so I feel like having being really into things with Neil and Jeremy and our team, and that's helping a lot more.
Look at these sulfides, folks, with rims with bornite right along the contact. Yikes. Wow.
Yeah,
3.84% copper, zero point 0.7 of a gram of gold, 22 grams of silver, and right only at 190 meters. Wow. And here's your porphyry, folks, with the veinlets coming through it from all different directions. Some more bornite and chalcopyrite. Wow. And it's just one picture after another. Look at all this bornite here, folks. Yikes. 23% copper. Oh my God. 168 grams, 196 grams of gold and 168 grams of silver. Just start mining that. I can go
I
in
know
there.
it's very special, and this just kind of keeps going. The gold, that gold, we don't, that's to be determined. We don't understand it yet, but you do understand when you see rock like this for 9 meters, where that there's this. Again, we thought it was 30 grams gold with all this bornite because there's such a relationship that gold carries in the bornite matrix and such. But 196 grams gold, we reassayed that many times. That is
Wow,
real. We were like, no way. I thought it was a typo.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So there could be like a secondary mineralization coming in there.
There's
Uh,
definitely gold all over. You get a lot of gram, a lot of 2 grams, right? Like you get like these half grams. There's 5 meters of 8 grams gold. I think about 5 kilometers to the southeast of us.
yeah.
Um, so there's gold in and around, and like it's a greenstone belt in Ontario, so it does make sense. But I don't know because clearly it matters with this fluid flow. So we don't know what it is yet, but it's definitely it's there. It's part of the system. So
Oh,
that'll be a
maybe
fun
you
one to
got
uncover.
a orogenic gold system kicker.
Overprint.
There you go. Look at all that bornite and chalcopyrite, folks, and look at the grades it's carrying. Oh, here's a veinlet of quartz with a chunk of bornite in it, and another nice blob of it there. And what did that run? 1.8%. Oh my gosh. Wow.
And
That
then their
is,
cave,
oh,
and then
here's the
this is
cave.
there's the cave.
Oh yeah, he's pointing to the bornite.
Yeah, so there's these like two veins that run that are 16% copper, and then the wall rock carries it, and then there's these flat line, and he takes you through it. But
Well, we won't
it's
play it, but folks, you should because as I always say, do your homework and that's a good way to is that the doctor?
that's Jeremy. No, that's Jeremy.
Oh,
That's our head of exploration.
okay. Wow. When they see that, they must just their eyes must light up.
Everyone gets very excited.
Like me talking about it in the course.
Huh? Yeah,
Wow, wow,
yeah,
wow. When you
yeah. The
get a
rock
lot
is
of wows in a project, folks, that's a good indicator. Here it's right at surface. Wow. And then you just go through hole after hole after hole. More wow, wow, wow. And it's the association of these sulfides and the grades. Oh my God. 7.9% copper. Yikes. Wow, Matt. So, okay, you're gonna have the record for wows in an interview, I think. Um, what's coming up now? What's next?
we've got this. So we put out scale. We have a drill hole. We've drilled 15 more holes. Hilariously, when we drilled that discovery hole, of course we knew that it was good when you see the rock. We that hill, the cliff that you saw in the LiDAR though, we did not have, as I had said, it was not part of our original drill plan. So we didn't have pads drilled built. We didn't have trails built out. So again, as I've said, it's Ontario forest, so you need to make things work. So we actually dragged the drill 2 kilometers basically and have drilled lots of parallel areas or like
Oh,
we've moved away and then trying to understand kind of the scale and the system.
yeah.
Um, and then we are now coming back to attack it. So we are kind of getting back into it now.
Can you
Um,
come from that other side down, save
we
yourself 50 meters or so and come into it?
it's the thought. You're on it. That's that's the idea.
It only took me 32 years in this business
You got it.
poking holes looking for rocks, Matt, that I
Uh, that's that's the idea, man. That's kind of where we're at. And so we've got, the wonderful thing about this project is that it's we drilled our first 3,000 meters, cost 500 grand.
wow.
And in porphyry exploration, for those who are used to, 4,000 meter elevation and $1,000 a meter US cost, this is a real advantage for us. And so we've been able to test things that you probably wouldn't test, learn things that you probably wouldn't learn, knowing that we'll come back here because we're not going to run out of budget. And so it's been a really nice thing.
Yeah, the folks that sometimes when you make a discovery, it's the start of your problems, not the end of your problems. Because, like not saying, if it cost you 1,000 meters a hole or per meter to drill a hole, it takes time and lots of money. And so with the porphyries, you need a lot of holes to figure them out. And when you got that low cost of drilling costs, that you can Swiss cheese this thing.
Yeah, I always thought that porphyries were big blobs. I have this sense in my head of like, it's just this big blob in the ground that you just mine. And I have really quickly learned, or maybe not so quickly, but I have learned they're all different shapes and sizes and relationships and high grade and the
And you
orientation of
got
your drilling
faulting
matters.
and you got zonation and
Yeah. You might
and
mine it as a blob. You might mine it like a blob, but like it's not when you drill it, it is certainly not a blob. And so it's very advantageous to have like cheap drill cross and be able to move around really nicely. And so that's been fun.
awesome. So you got and because you're in Ontario, are you able to drill throughout the winter when the ground isn't so soft, full of snow and rain?
Yeah, honestly, the drilling here is year round. The only time I probably wouldn't drill again unless you really needed to, so down the road, is end of April to end of May when the snow all melts in Ontario. The melt, as you would say, is not a good time for companies to be. We did that last year. That's a mess, like I said. So we probably won't drill then. Probably take a break around Christmas. But really,
Unless,
you
of
you
course,
get
you got a nice outcrop and you can go land a helicopter
just
on it.
stand on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
sure. And honestly, like down actually where the new Bornite outcrop area is a lot flatter, a little bit more hard ground. Luckily, this is an active logging area, the whole area.
Oh,
So you
wow.
get lots of trails cleared and they're great. They've been wonderful. So that's the nice part for drilling in the winter. So we're probably going to take advantage of that in the winter. And but yeah, really it's just the melt. That otherwise you can drill all year round. So lots of news
So,
flow, lots of things to talk about.
do you have more holes being assayed now? And are you cutting more holes as we speak, sort of thing?
Yeah, we collared a new one this morning, last
Yep.
night, October 8th. So yeah, we probably drilled about 15 holes. I have everything, everything's in the lab. I will say to anyone listening, for all people in Canada, or at least in Ontario, because I can't talk about Canada, but there are a lot of people looking to get their assays moved quickly,
Right.
um, to the point that the labs are getting mass rush orders from people. And so for those, a rush order is usually a week or two where you get results versus a normal order where you get it in 6 weeks. But our rushed hole was 6 weeks. So if
Holy,
everyone's rushing their holes because commodity prices are so high, then a normal hole, so I don't know. So we're moving
be
ahead. We're doing our
patient.
things. Patience here, like we know when we're in something and when we're not. Copper, luckily, is a very visual thing, so it's not worrisome to follow up on it. But yes,
And
it's an
folks,
interesting
with
thing.
this company, don't fall into these problems of, okay, they got a hole way over there and maybe it only gets a sniff. Even pay attention to the sniffs because the sniffs tell you that something big is happening. You get a sniff 3 kilometers away, and a kilometer and a half, and a kilometer away. You put this whole thing together, folks, because it's not, mines aren't like you just poke a hole and you find magic and you just keep poking more holes like that. They're learning from those holes what this system is all about. So be patient is what I'm getting at here.
I can promise we will miss. We take big shots too. I like taking big shots. It's like, let's go drill this weird random thing over here on our way as we like just think logistically, you're dragging a rig on the ground through a trail. And then if you have some crazy target, if you're because your drill costs are so low, let's poke a hole in it and see what it is, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
So this has been a lot of fun, truthfully. I sit on the other side of the desk a lot, putting money into things and watching people do these things. And so to have it in the thing that we're doing is a real treat.
Before I let you go, I want to bring up your stock chart here. So, folks, they were a sleepy little company trading sideways to down, and then they started drilling.
Don't
Then
be
they
too harsh.
announced, huh?
Don't be too harsh.
Well, I'm just looking at the chart, Matt. You know, is what with this, it certainly wasn't awake, it was flatlining.
It sure was.
Little bleeps of whoa, boop, 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 and then boop. She goes vertical. And something else I always say to people is that you can learn a lot from the when something pulls back, almost as much as you can learn when they run up. We know that they ran up dramatically when they announced that monster hole. It just went parabolic. Okay. But now look at this flatlining period here, and it averaged, let's say, 45 cents a share. So everybody that bought it 45 cents a share, they're now looking at, 7, 5, 8, 10 times their money. Okay. And, but look at the pullback since then. It maintained a lot of its gain. I learn a lot, Matt, from what something does when it's you can see my chart, can't you?
No, I don't think you're sharing it at the moment.
Oh, damn it. hold on a second.
I
Uh,
was gonna say something, but I wasn't sure if you were overprinting it or what was happening. Anyway,
Here, folks, sorry about that. So here's the
there we
flatlining.
go.
Traded its volume there. Some averaged in at 30 cents, and then it went parabolic. But look at how it's come back. It's like the audience is, they are seeing what you're seeing. Now, of course, some are going to take some profits. You're kind of stupid not to take some profits, but I love seeing when they gap like this, Matt, and then they only give back a small portion, and then look at after it gave back some profit taking small portion, it popped up again on the great news you put out today of your new team member or new official team member, and all this sampling data that you had. So this is an evolving story, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, folks. And uh, I got a
Only
feeling
four,
it's going to be
only 40 million
burning.
shares out too, so it's very, very, we rolled it back in the spring, and so it's only 37 million, 44, I think, fully diluted. So you got a lot of torque here in the market if we start hitting and continuing to push forward.
What does the management's position look like, Matt? You guys own some stock?
So I think my average cost on this company, Allan, is like $7. And
Or
so I took this over. This is the same company. I wouldn't let it die that I took over to restart a gold mine in Paraguay in 2017. And there's been two rollbacks, 2 to 1 and 10 to 1. And I've played all along the way, writing anything from 50 grand to 100 grand. And so I probably own a couple percent,
yeah.
and not for the lack of trying, more just simply because I have not. The cheapest round ever was in the spring when we did a 1.5 million at 25 cents. So
And did you
that
do some of
unfortunately,
that?
yeah. So I put 50 in the 25 cent deal, and then I put 50 in the 35 cent deal. I had put in when we raised for our Labrador asset in 2023, we raised $6.5 million, and it didn't work, and I had put in 100 there.
Ay, ay, ay.
So
You
it's
feel the pain. You feel the
I feel the
pain.
pain. I'm coming back to my cost. I'm coming back to my cost on that one, but I had put money in to the Paraguay company way long anyway. So,
Okay.
but
So
all the management is the same. So Richard, Patricio, myself, like we've Jeremy, we've been on this for 8 years. We're making this work. All of us participate as we go along. But there's no cheap stock. There's no like this wasn't founded from
founders,
zero.
half a penny stock. No.
No. So, and I mean, I'm not going to knock people for that because that's like if you start an idea from scratch, that's fine. But we took this from something that was already existing, and so we didn't really ditch it. We kept pivoting. So that's where we're at.
Cool. So how's the cash position?
We have 2.25 right now.
Yeah.
Again, we've raised very little. I've this year I was like, let's see what we have here rather than a giant raise to kind of just drill it out. So we saw what we have here, and this is I think truly a special project. And so we're evaluating options at the moment. There's no rush to do anything when you spend 500 grand for 3,000 meters. So we're right like it's okay. And for the most part, I'm going to be a lead. So we'll see. I think that like inevitably a junior mining CEO, what you do is raise money. That is your purpose in
Job.
life.
Yeah.
But I think that if we do that prior to more news, if we do that, then it's going to be something where people take note, and it will be something where it's like, oh, I probably should not have thought I was. I know that I've been burned as an investor several times waiting for a deal to buy a story. Hercules killed me on that,
Yeah.
and I was like, and I know Chris quite well, and I had all this money put aside to put money into it.
I,
And they're
I tell
like,
people don't
watch me,
get too
watch me do
cute.
this with Barrick. And then I'm like, shit. So,
There,
so,
there's there's the
yeah,
scars of folks of why you don't want to get too cute. When you see
kills
a
you.
fat pitch, swing.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is a good one. I think this is a pretty fat watermelon-y pitch. So we're drilling right now. I don't plan on stopping. Maybe the end of November, mid-December, but we're gonna push forward and we're back at attacking this discovery zone. We're gonna figure out what's going on. Hopefully, we have a lot more bornite to talk about,
Yeah.
um, and then get a lot of news flow that comes from that. So It's a
Will you
thrilling
keep
time.
shareholder? You going to show some drill core pictures along the way there, Matt, or what
You know,
you?
I don't truly, you had Denny and Steph on here, and I love these guys, and they are so bold with their videos and communication, and I love it. I love it, right? Like they do such a good job. And I have there's something about it with visuals. I think I was burned so much in the last bull run through visuals. I just don't do it. That being said, I would think about it. I think that I probably won't. I will say I probably will not release visuals.
Matt, you're falling into that old school category, and nobody is
Fair
making
enough.
you sign a contract of a guarantee that something that looks good in the drill core is going to be good. But the way I look at it is we're in the treasure hunting business.
Yeah.
And you want to get your audience into the enthusiast, the greatness of looking for
So you like it.
treasures, right? Like I say to people, it doesn't guarantee that you got results, but your shareholders, they want to see that stuff. So show it to them.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate that. Denny is like that.
Yeah.
I respect those opinions, your opinions very much. And so let's just say I'll think about it.
Okay. Well, we got lots of scars too. We've drilled geophysical anomalies that look pretty and didn't come out pretty. And we've looked at pretty rock and it didn't come out pretty. But at the end of the day, I think where our industry falls down, Matt, is that we're in the treasure hunting business.
Yeah,
And, how do we look for treasures? With the truth machine.
yeah,
And
sure.
what shows us that we might be sitting on a treasure is what's coming out of that truth machine. I mean, look at it, Matt. Look at the nonsense that goes on Wall Street. Look at the nonsense. You look at this Bitcoin guy, Saylor. He's billion dollars. It's going to be $10 million of Bitcoin, $1 million of Bit. I mean, they're throwing shit out there that they would make Howe Street and Bay Street stock promoters look like child's play. So yeah, bring people into the excitement of the treasure hunt, amigo.
All right, fair enough.
All
Fair enough.
right.
That is a convincing argument. I'll still
Okay.
ponder it.
I haven't convinced you yet.
Not
That's
yet, but
okay.
close.
That's
Not yet.
okay. That's okay. Well, good on you guys. Congratulations to you,
Thanks, Alan.
whole team. You and I have been around long enough to have had our hopes and dreams shot down many times, and it's always great to see somebody, you know, looking for treasures and finding it in the truth machine.
Thanks, Alan. That was awesome to chat with you again. Anytime. Let's stay in touch and
I want to get your
nice.
geologist on. I want to get some rock guys on.
What? I'm not good enough for you, Alan? Come on.
Well, yeah, you're the booth babe. You're the eye candy.
The market, the market's coming back. We might get there again.
Well, I'd love to have it, and I definitely want to keep my audience informed on what you're doing. So
For
we
sure.
definitely have to do this again, Matt.
Will do. Thanks a lot, Alan. This was great.
And look, you didn't want to have too long of an interview, and we had fun talking for over an hour about your
That's
new
really great.
new discovery there, amigo. I love this stuff. I'm a
Yeah.
junkie for high grade, buddy.
Well, we need another hour to reach what Denny and Steph did. So I don't know. I don't have a dissertation like Denny does on Kirk Lake.
Well, but you have insights, Matt, that, I try to pick out where I see insights that can help my audience, not just when they're looking at your company, but when they're looking at other companies as well. Like we talked about, just because the geologists say something isn't there doesn't mean it isn't. Just because other companies have been on a project and walked away doesn't mean there's not something there. Looking at things with the fresh eye, you're the doctor, what's his name? Neil, what's your
O'Brien.
O'Brien? He sees something off of one hole, folks, and he wants to put his name into the board of directors and throw his hat in big time. That's what good discoveries do. So I could talk a lot about this, Matt, and I'm really happy to see somebody poking holes, looking for buried treasures and finding them, man.
Thanks, Alan. I appreciate it. I look forward to keeping you guys to keeping you up on it, and hopefully next time we're talking, there's even more Purple Rock to talk about, right?
Well, you'll probably have me as a shareholder, and I'll be even more jacked up. This is without me. This is me with no bias whatsoever, Matt. Can you
Perfect.
imagine if I'm a shareholder? All right, folks, as always, do your homework. Speak with your financial advisors. They got a lot of homework for you to do on their website. Please go and check that out. Watch that video. I'm going to do that as soon as this show's over. And yeah, do the homework. Speak with your financial advisors. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.